Hi, my little seamstresses. Today we're going to practice two kinds of stitches. The first one is the back stitch, and the second one is called the whip stitch, or some people call it overcast, but we're going to call it the whip stitch. So we'll start with our needles that we have already threaded. And I'm going to pull one out of this secure place and put it back, put the others back in front of me so I know where they are. And we're going to work on a circle. This is the back stitch, and it's pretty on one side, it's not so pretty on the other side. But we're going to start by putting our needle on the inside in the sandwich, inside the sandwich. And we're going to make our first stitch. Knot's already in my thread, and I'm going to pull, and then we're going to take a stitch back. Try to go right through the hole where you put the last one, and then pull. We went back towards the other stitches, towards the hand that I'm sewing with, and all the way through on the other side. And pull, but don't pull so hard that you pull through your fabric. And so now I'm going to go through the back side of it. I'm going forward towards my other hand. I think I'm going to move this because my stitch is going to be a lot shorter than this stitch. I want them to look as close to alike as possible. So I'm going to move it. See, can I do it a little better? That's a better spot. Now we're using construction paper, so the mistakes will show, but I'm using the construction paper because it's much bigger and I think it's easier for you to see. So I went forward and I'm pushing my needle up. So forward and up and back and down. That's why it's called the back stitch. It's because you keep going back to where you were. And again, I'm going to try and put it through that same hole. It's hard sewing on paper. It won't be this hard for you on your fabric. Okay, so same hole. And I'm going to pull, pull, pull. Remember not to pull so hard that I pull the stitch all the way through my fabric. So, and forward and up. And back and down. Trying to keep my stitches all the same size and trying to keep them the same distance from the edge of my fabric. And forward and up. So forward and up. And back and down. Forward and up. So I went forward towards his hand and up with my needle. And back and down. And I keep going until I start to run out of thread. And when I do, I need to stop in time that I can make loops and put my needle back through. Up and back and down. And the back stitch is used to make really pretty designs. And I know that you girls want to be able to do that. So forward and up. And back and down. This is probably a good place for me to stop and do a finishing knot. And this is something that is not pretty on the other side. It's pretty on this side. So if I want, I can just keep my knot to the outside. And you know how to do a finishing knot, so you would do that at this point, get more thread and continue. So that's the back stitch. Now let's look at the overcast stitch, the whip stitch. Whip stitch. Okay, with the whip stitch, you're whipping it back to the other side and bringing it to the front. So I would start with my knot, and I'm using a different color this time. I think it would be kind of neat if I used all different colors all the way around. So whip stitch looks like this, and it pretty much looks the same on both sides. But I'm going to start in the middle, inside my sandwich, and again trying to keep the stitches the same distance apart. I've already got my knot, so okay, didn't quite get to my knot. So you might have that happen sometimes where you still got thread hanging out there, but your knot's already where it's supposed to be. So if that happens, just hold on to your knot and pull, try both threads until you find the one that should be pulled in. See? Okay. So now I'm all set again. All right, so I started my overcast, and now I'm going to go underneath and forward. I whipped it over the edge. That's why it's called a whip stitch. And you can kind of move those to where you want them to be. So I'm up. Now I'm going to go forward and up. And it's the same stitch over and over again. It's forward and up. It's a little bit easier than the back stitch that you were doing. So forward. Ooh, paper's hard to work with. Okay, won't be as hard on your fabric. Forward and up. And forward towards the other hand and up. So forward and up. Forward. And up. Forward and up. See, I'm pushing that so it falls where I want it. If it wants to go back here, I don't want it back here. So I'm pushing it up with my hand and tightening. Forward. Although I'm saying forward and up with this stitch, but this is one of those stitches you can go the other way if you want to and it'll still be pretty. I'm right-handed, so for me, it is always towards the other hand, my left hand. So forward and up, forward and up. So every time it is forward and up. And you would keep going with this one until you're about to run out of thread, or for some other reason that you have to stop. And if you're not at a point that you really can do a finishing knot, you can always leave your needle in your work. Leave it in your work, and then when you're ready, you can come back to it. Either leave your needle in your work or do your finishing knot, but this time it's going to be a finishing knot that you want on the inside, because both sides of your project have the same pretty stitch. So you don't want the knot on the outside. So this time that finishing knot is on the inside with the stitch on the inside. So this is the overcast. This is what the whip stitch or the overcast stitch. And I keep calling it overcast because that's what I call it, but most people call it a whip stitch because you're whipping the thread back to the back side. So there's the overcast stitch, and this is the back stitch. So that's the end of this lesson, ladies, and we'll take a look and see what pretty things you can do with those 2 stitches in the next video. Bye-bye.